And away we go with this match from winners round 2. It's going to be Craig Waddingham to get things underway. He won the lag. His opponent on the right of the screen, Marc Farnsworth. Two players. Well, this really epitomizes the two worlds collide, this match, doesn't it? Marc Farnsworth, the #1 on the IPA tour for the last couple of years, against Craig Waddingham, who's been a key figure on EPA and UK tour. Also, a well-known money match player. Played those epic games against Mark Boyle. Referee Sam Sprackman getting things underway. Craig Waddingham breaking frame #1. And he's been unlucky there. He parked the white in the middle of the table. Ball came around, kicked it into the middle. So very unfortunate. So I think what Marc's going to be looking at doing, I would assume he'll probably go reds, and the key shot he's going to be looking to play is the red to right middle, and just run past the face of the yellow below that red and just nudge into the two reds. He could equally go yellows. Yellows are all there. He may decide to play yellow to top corner and just nudge the red below that yellow aside to clear the path. So even where he's placed that cue ball could go either one of two ways. Yeah, so he's looking at just kicking this red aside to open the path for the other yellow. Well, didn't need to, could just stun back and play this into the middle. Gareth Potts joins me on commentary. Good afternoon, Gareth.
Good afternoon, everybody.
That was a bit...
Testing.
Ah, there we go, we're okay.
I'm back.
So Marc Farnsworth against Craig Waddingham. I was just saying that they couldn't be two. I mean, this really epitomizes the two worlds colliding. The strapline that you see across the table. Marc Farnsworth from IPA and Craig Waddingham has been part of the furniture with EPA and UK tour for a number of years.
Yeah, absolutely. These two would be right at the top of the tree of either sort of association.
Right, we'll try that again. I think Gareth's headset was just playing up a bit there. Hopefully it's okay now.
Apologies about that, yeah.
No. That's no good. That was a really thin little cut, wasn't it? And
Yeah, and these two guys are sort of ultra attacking. Marc would maybe be slightly slower and a little bit more methodical around the table, but that doesn't mean that he isn't ultra attacking in I mean, which balls he plays and how he attacks the table. He might not do it quite as quick as someone like a, you know, a Waddingham or a Malian, but he is still has attacking.
Whenever I commentate on Marc Fleming, I always use the same word to describe him. I think he's the most clinical player. When I say that, I mean when he's in amongst the balls.
That'll be Marc Farnsworth.
What did I say?
Fleming.
Oh my God. Sorry.
It's been a long day.
It has been a long day. Bit of a faux pas. Yeah, Marc Farnsworth. I say what I was going to say is when he's amongst the balls, when he's got a run out, even the simplest of run outs, he's clinical with them. He just time after time, his positional play is just pinpoint accurate, and he so rarely misses from open play. Even if he's got just one problem area, he's just clinical in finishing. I think that's what makes him so good.
Yeah, I think there's a real argument and case for hand on the table. So take the break away, which is probably the worst part of his game. Hand on the table. There's an argument that he is the best player. In the meantime, Craig's played a really good shot there.
Yeah.
He'll now play the one that's in the middle of the table in the blue spot, the one that's in bulk, and leave the one in the middle until last, and just play a little soft screw shot to play the black into the left corner. And obviously this frame's come about from Marc having the first chance and missing a ball, albeit quite a thin clip into the middle. It was a miss, and it does go down as an unforced error. And I commentated last night on the Farnsworth Appleton game, and Marc got off to a little bit of a nightmare start where he was 4-1 down, having missed two quite easy chances. But then from 4-1, the standard was unbelievable. I think there was 12 or 13.
Yeah, Darren said 13 breaking dishes for him to go 10-7. I mean, Marc would feel that he's got out of jail. He would have been almost at 10-7 when Darren was in open play a couple of times. Marc would have been thinking of resigning himself to being in the loser's side.
Especially given how good the standard had been leading up to that. Like I say, with those consecutive clearances in the middle of the match, neither player, to be honest, other than the first couple of frames, looked like missing and looked like making a mistake. So it did sort of come out of the blue. But one thing I will say is, Appleton isn't really playing much competitive NEQ sports at the minute. So maybe he saw the winning line and tightened up a little bit. Certainly the last black was, well, he completely rushed it. It was probably the quickest shot he played in the whole match, the last black. So, but that aside, Marc got off to a bad start in that match by making a couple of errors, and he's made an error there in the first frame, but against the sort of calibre of players that, well, not only in the winner's side, but are in this tournament, the start's important. Although it's a race to 11, the start of the match is important, because if you make mistakes at the start of the match, not only does it help you not to settle, but it helps your opponent to settle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we even saw that in the last match. I know it was George against Mick, but George going in off at 2-1 down to make it 2-all. The difference between 3-1 and 2-all in that early stage of the game is just is huge, especially in a race to 8.
Especially in a race to 8, yeah. Really good break there from Marc.
Yeah, he's definitely been working on that break, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think he's been working on it. It's no secret that he'll be the first to tell you that certainly for a top player that his break isn't as good as it should be, and certainly isn't probably as good as a lot of the other top players, and isn't as good as a lot of the middle rank players. But what he does make up for is, like you say, how good he is with his hand on the table and how clinical he is with the finishes. And that's okay being that good with your hand on the table and not really missing any finishes, but at this level, if you don't break good, you won't get enough chances to win.
Yeah. And these are really the occasions that I feel he thrives on. These balls in open play, his patterns just seem to always be there. Rarely misses anything.
That's a good shot. He's landed dead straight on this one into the right corner, and that means he can just drop it in and then land on the one below the black. He'll definitely be taking these two balls out of the way now because he knows that he's absolutely perfect on this yellow into the corner. So he'll drop this in, land in the gap of the red and the black. May have just trickled that through a little bit far.
Looks like he's got a fairly small tip on his cue. Do you know what size?
It is quite small. I don't know exactly. Just watching something's happened in the arena there. Marc pointed to something or somebody over the side of the arena there. I don't know what it was or what happened, whether somebody said something or somebody made a noise or somebody definitely did something, because he's definitely overrun this and it definitely put him off, and he did point over, and I don't know exactly what happened there, but yeah, he has got quite a small tip. I don't know exactly the size, but I would say it's around 8, maybe slightly under. It's definitely no bigger than 8. And he is one of the few players that does play with a maple shaft or a maple cue, as opposed to Ashwood.
I think you mentioned before that his cue's quite unique, isn't it? Very, very whippy.
It's very whippy. It's quite like, you can see there, the shaft on it is maple. I'll go look at it here.
Quite unique as well. You'd probably struggle to replace it if anything ever happened to it.
Yeah, so the main difference with maple and ash would be that maple would be less whippy. The wood would be a little bit stronger than ash wood, and aesthetically looking, there's no arrows in the grain. A lot of players hold the cue in a certain way. When you buy a cue and it's got a shave piece in it, it's designed to be held in a certain way, so you're cueing down the chevrons.
I want to take a quick look at the other scores in the winner's side. Phil Harrison is 6-0 up against Stefan Rosidi. Phil really means business this weekend, and there's two fairly formidable players in Phil Harrison and Scott Gillespie, and they're both looking like they're on form this weekend. Both of those players going for number 3. Chris Melling's 4-2 up against Jimmy Croxton, having been 2-all. Gareth Hibbett 3-2 against Rob Chilton. Ian Alley is having a good weekend so far. He's 4-1 up against Josh Kane. Declan Brennan 3-0 versus Chris Day. Chris Day, of course, the person who knocked Mick Hill into the loser's side yesterday. Carl Morris 4-2 up against Carl Boys in the Battle of the Carls. Jordan Shepherd 1-all against Jack Whelan. Liam Dunster 3-2 against Toby Bolt. Andrew McKee 3-all with Carlo Donahue. John McAllister 6-0 against Brian Halcrow. Tom Cousins, Clint Aronson 1 each. Gary Clark 4-0 against Jordan Templeton, who's had a very good weekend so far. But he's 4-0 down. Rich Toomey 4-2 up against Dave Fernandez, and Craig Lake and Jordan Church just getting underway.
So this is maybe the first time, or certainly the first time that I've seen that just the black has been potted off the break. So the rule is different to what it is at Black Ball and World Rules, and definitely better. Definitely better change to the rule. So he potted the black and no other balls, so that means the black just comes back on the spot and the turn gets passed over to your opponent rather than a re-rack. If Craig had made a ball and the black, then it would have been deemed that he was in control of the table, and then he carries on and the black comes back on the spot. So it's not rocket science. That to me is just a common sense way to do it, rather than in the other rules it would have been rack them back up and Craig almost gets an advantage from it and breaks again.
Yeah, it means you don't get punished if you get a great break and the black goes in off.
Yeah,
but you don't get an advantage if the black on its own goes in off. You know, sometimes you could have only the black goes in and there's balls tied up everywhere, and you think, thank God that went in, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just a common sense way. And sorry, Nick, just quickly here, this is where also the rules are going to come into, because what you should be doing here is clipping off this red and potting the yellow over the pocket, you see, to snooker him. And he has seen it and he is playing it. Just like that. Good shot. And that tells you that he is tuned up with the rules. He does know what he's doing. And he certainly isn't one of the players that's turned up to this event having not read or understood the rules.
It's one of the first times I've seen. I mean, we've seen it a couple of times, but very few in the last couple of days where we've seen this tactical shot where it's just loss of turn. The opponent has to come on. We've spotted it a few times, and even I thought that Neil Raybone had an obvious one earlier, and I kind of mentioned it to him afterwards, and he said, "Well, actually, I did see it, but I didn't play it for this reason. It made perfect sense." But yeah, you do wonder whether some of the players are just not totally tuned in. They know the rules, but it's knowing when to play that shot.
No, they definitely won't be totally tuned in, because, as I've said before, your mindset of when you're winning and losing and spotting those shots is just completely alien to what you've always been used to. So, you know, I'm not saying it's easy to just automatically spot those shots, but, you know, you do need to.
It's funny because I was convinced over that, and even myself and Paul discussed it, and he was convinced it was the right shot to play as well, and that's why I kind of mentioned it to Neil. And he said, you know, because knowing he comes from a Chinese background, I was pretty sure he would have spotted it, and I want to know his reasons for not playing it. And he kind of said, well, I didn't play it because if I had, he would have just had this little shot, and I would have been in trouble. And it made absolute sense. So it's not just seeing the shot; it's knowing the right time to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difference of the rules on, you know, this table maybe to a Chinese table is you've got to be very careful when you play the shot, because, you know, especially against the, you know, the top players, not a lot is safe. So you've got to make sure that when you do play the loss of turn shot that you're not leaving any sort of shot. And a lot of the time against these top boys on the English table, you want them snookered. But just for the people watching at home that sort of maybe don't quite understand what happened there, so as long as you make contact with your own ball first, you can pot your opponent's ball and it's just loss of turn. Irrelevant of where the cue ball finishes, it's just loss of turn. Basically, they're just as attacking as you can make a set of rules, and it just favours the attacking player. Sometimes there's nowhere to hide and you have to get your finish, and if you miss your finish, you lose. So, from the shot he played, Craig come out the snooker and made actually a good effort at the ball on the top cushion, and did actually knock Marc's balls a little bit tricky. And I was just going to say he's going to win the frame from it, but he's just played a little bit of a slack cannon there. I don't know if he can clip this in, but if he can, it's very thin, and I'm not sure where the cue ball is.
Yeah, maybe just enough distance, but
where's the cue ball?
Yeah, cue ball's going to be.
It's hard because of how thin it is. He's got to obviously generate the power to make sure the red reaches the middle, and in doing that, the white's going to be flying all over the place. Oh, he's controlled it unbelievably well.
Oh, and what a flick as well.
Well,
deserved a bit of luck, I guess. But
well, he did get a nice flick, obviously, but even without the flick, he was on it.
He was on it, yeah.
You know, it would have just been closer to the middle. In actual fact, he probably would have preferred it closer to the middle, because then it would have been easier to get to the black, I think.
Yeah, he's just a touch straight, isn't he? You have to cue this well. Yeah,
and that's what Marc does, and that's what is definitely the right thing to do. When you pop balls like Farnsworth does, you don't need to try and be too cute. You don't need to try and be too clever. You can just leave yourself shots. Because let's be honest, if the white was next to where the yellow is, he would pot the black.
Yeah.
And he will still pot the black from up there, albeit only just that time.
It is human nature to want to try and get closer and try and make the game as easy as you possibly can.
Especially when you're under pressure.
Yeah. But you know, it's one of those he's always going to pot, you know, 99 times out of 100 he's going to pot. So.
Yeah, and on an English table, you know, you're playing in a relatively short area. So, you know, when you're trying to get a little bit too clever at times, you can end up making mistakes and snookering yourself, because you have got a small area to work with, and at the end of the day, there's still 15 balls on the table.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can look quite congested, and if you try and be a little bit too cute, and that's the way that Marc plays, and in my opinion, that is the way to play 8-ball, is just to, sometimes you have to just almost take your medicine and leave yourself the shot. because he certainly couldn't have potted the black if he'd have screwed back and landed behind the yellow.
No.
But from where he landed, like I said, it didn't really make a difference if he was there or 6 inches further down the table. He was always going to, you know, pot the black.
Playing the percentages.
Fourth frame, Marc Farnsworth break, leading 2 frames to 1, time running.
So let's take another look at Marc's break.
And I was noticing yesterday what he was doing was he was setting up with the right-hand side onto the cue ball off the break, and if we can get a look at the overhead so we can see where the tip is to the white. But oh, he's hit those good, and he's parked the cue ball up. Oh, and it's got kicked into the corner. That's naughty.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nasty.
That's kind of 1-1 because same thing happened to Craig in frame number 1. He was really unlucky with his. He parked the white, and it got kicked in almost identical fashion.
You can see Marc standing there with his hand on his head as if to say, oh, that hurt.
Not only do yellows look good, it looks like a fairly good pattern to connect the dots as well.
Yeah, and it does hurt when that happens. But you know, if he'd have hit the break pad and the cue ball was flying all over the place, and it gets kicked in or you're going off, and you sort of think, well, I sort of half deserve that because I didn't hit him good. But when you hit him like that and park the cue ball in the middle of the table, and the ball comes off the back rail and kicks it straight into the corner, it definitely does hurt a little bit. So just to clarify on that, so like Steve's asked on the live chat, so reds were decided by playing a loss of turn on the yellows. Well, no, what happened was first shot Marc potted a yellow, so which means he's now on yellows. He then snicked off his yellow, so he made contact with his own ball first and potted Craig's red and left him snookered at the same time. Or actually, if it was the other way around, whether he made contact with the red and potted Craig's yellow. But so as long as you make contact with your own ball first, you can pot your opponent's ball. And irrelevant of where you leave the cue ball, it's just a loss of turn. The mindset of potting your opponent's ball as a foul is just a new way of thinking now. It's just loss of turn. So as long as you make contact with your own ball, it's irrelevant. It's just loss of turn. Unless you pot your own ball, then you continue. It's pretty simple, really. That's literally it. The rest of the time, it's just you go for your finish, and if you miss and you foul, your opponent has cue ball in hand.
That's a nice clearance from Craig.
One thing I have noticed as well, Nick, is I've done a couple of matches on the another couple of the stream tables, and although they do play quick and responsive, they don't play quite as quick and responsive as this main match table, and that is normally the case always in every tournament, whether that be snooker tournaments or any other tournament. The match table does normally play a little bit quicker and a little bit slippier than the others.
Is that because of the extra lighting around the table, the extra heat in the room?
That's exactly what it is, the extra lighting, the extra heat, and all the little things like it's the main TV table. It seems to maybe get a little bit extra care when they're brushing, when they're ironing it. You've got the extra heat, the extra lighting, and it all just contributes to it playing a bit quicker and a bit slippier.
Over on table 4 is Jordan Shepherd playing Jack Whelan. Jordan's got a fairly simple black to make it 2 each in that match.
Just quickly while they're racking the balls up there, it's panning around. The club is actually full today. There's obviously 14, 15 other matches going on around the club, so there's a lot of people watching elsewhere, but there's a lot of people in here watching.
There is. That bar area is packed.
It is, and so yeah, just quickly, Kurtwood has asked. I mentioned that Marc's using around an 8mm tip. In my opinion, what do I think is the perfect, basically, size tip for UK English 8 ball? It's a tough question, that, because a lot of players are different. A lot of players hit the ball differently. A lot of players play with more side than others. But if I had to just sort of say an amount without going into too much detail on it, without boring you to death with it all, I would probably say around 8.5 mil. 8.5 to 9 mil, I would say, is the maybe an in between of an 8.7, 8.75 to 8.5. I think any bigger than that, the side, when you're playing with a lot of sides, spin becomes an issue. Any smaller than that, you need to be a very good cueist, because if it's very, very small, then it's hard to find the middle of the cue ball, especially when you're under pressure. If you've got to pot that long ball, or if you're playing with a 7 mil tip and you're under pressure, if you don't find the middle of that cue ball, you're going to flick a little bit side on, and it's going to push the cue ball offline. So anything around 8.5 would be what I'd say.
Yeah, I tried playing years ago with like a 7. I tend to use about a 8.25, but I tried to use a 7.5 mil tip, and I just found the cue ball was going around in circles. I mean, I was just imparting side when I absolutely didn't want to.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And especially on, like, this super fine cloth where it plays unbelievably quick and slippy, if you just flick a little bit of unintentional side on, it's obviously going to push the cue ball offline before it gets to the object ball. So I'm not saying play with a big dustbin lid, so you don't flick any side on, because then what happens is when you do want to play with side, the little intricate shots where you need to play little flicks and nudges, you do need to have that size tip that allows you to play those shots. So I think a balance is around that. Okay, what's it? Thank you. No worries, pal. I hope that's helped out. One of Marc's best friends is online there, Anthony Pips Miller, and we have a bit of a standing joke about Marc Farnsworth's fingers, and he actually calls them little Cumberland sausages. And Craig missed a relatively easy ball there to allow Marc this chance. Just wants an angle on the red to allow him to obviously get up and get close to the red on the cushion. He's got some angle. I don't know if he's got enough, but he's got some, and this will be a prime example where if he hasn't got quite enough angle, he will just settle and leave himself a shot. He will not risk missing the pot.
No.
That's the way he plays.
He'll still play it firm. He'll probably bring the cue ball out somewhere around about the bottom of the line, maybe just above there, but he won't go for the big hoolie and
No.
try and get up by the middle back.
No, because he'll back him. He'll back himself. I don't know. See what's going on again. There's somebody.
There's somebody talking. I think
something's going on.
Yeah.
I think he can get maybe a little bit closer than to the edge of the line. Oh, he's played it good.
Oh, yeah,
but you see, he didn't sort of throw his arm at it. He made sure he still. And to be honest, he may have played it a little bit too well, because it might be a little bit too straight on the red.
Yeah. I can tell you that Phil Harrison is now 9-0 up against Stefan Rosidi. Phil must be on some rich vein of form at the moment, because Stefan is no walkover.
So I think he's got to punch this. He's going to punch it on and off the cushion. But you see what he's done again. He hasn't jeopardised missing the ball. He's just made sure of potting it, and he's basically just backed himself to pot it from there, or whether he got the cue ball you know, 4 inches out from that rail, he's basically saying, well, it doesn't really matter where it is, I ain't going to miss it, so I'm not going to risk missing the red.
And this is absolutely the key behind what I've said before about him being clinical. It's the simplicity. It's just keeping everything as simple as he possibly can, not going for the big expansive shots where he's trying to get closer to his work. He just takes his medicine and says, well, do you know what? I still back myself to pot it, so I'm never going to compromise myself.
Yeah,
keep it simple.
Absolutely. A really interesting, just in between the frame here, a really interesting point from the Priest channel. I don't know if that's Dave Priest or who that is, but this is a really interesting question. So, guys, will you see a time where a player might use a couple of cues? So basically what he's saying is they might use a 9mm cue for basically potting the balls, and then maybe use a 7.5mm for the intricate little shots with side.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about that. And he's basically said, you know, just like you would maybe do at the Chinese game or the American game where you would use a jump cue to play a jump shot, you would use a break cue to play a break shot.
Yeah. They turn out with 3 or 4 cues, the guys, don't they?
And so, to be honest, that's something I've never really thought about before at the English game, and it's quite a good point, and definitely food for thought with it. One thing I will say with it is your own cue almost becomes like a part of your arm. And you know the way that you know, you just know what it's doing when you play with, other than when you have a new tip or whatever. But you know, once you've got your tip bedded in, you know what it's doing when you're playing a side spin, when you're playing whatever shot it is you're playing. You know what it's going to do. I'm not saying you can't get 2 cues that you know what it's doing. But yeah, why not?
There's an interesting game about to start, which is Scott Gillespie against Manchid Omar. And Manchid Omar is the young man who played exceptionally well against Marc Ball last night and beat him 11-5. So be interesting to keep an eye on that game, because Marc Ball said that he's never seen anybody play quite to that level. He was just flawless. So if he plays in the same way, then it'll be really interesting to see how Scott Gillespie gets on against him, because Scott's playing really well as well. Craig Lakin's 3-1 up against Jordan Church.
I'm not sure there's too many people in the English 8-ball pool world that have had a better year than Gillespie.
No, season of his life for sure. And what a lovely chap as well.
Great guy.
Couldn't go to a better guy. One of the nice guys at pool for sure.
As when we were commentating together yesterday, Nick, I did say sometimes, you know, at this level you make a mistake, and generally what happens, whether it be the pool gods or whatever it may be, then it tends to cost you not only that frame, but then your opponent just always seems to break and clear the next frame, so it's like double whammy, and that looks like what's going to happen here. Craig's missed the ball in the previous frame, and it looks like it's probably going to cost him 2 frames. Although he has still got a little bit of work to do.
John McAllister now 7-1 against Brian Halcrow. Carla Donahue 7-3 against Andrew McKee. Liam Dunster 4-3 up against Toby Bolt. Declan Brennan 6-1 versus Chris Day. And Ian Alley 5-4 versus Josh Kane. Jack Whelan is 3-1 up against Jordan Shepherd. I must admit, no idea what's gone on there, because I looked away from the table when Jordan had basically he had a straight ball into the middle, but the black was sat right at the top of the shark rack. And Jordan asked for a referee to come and move the shark rack, and he was waiting there for a couple of minutes for the ref to come. And in that time, I browsed away, and he's obviously missed the straight black. So, you know, sometimes I wonder about that. These players are obsessed with moving the shark.
So that score was the score was 3-1. Would that not be the one frame he won?
No, that was to go 2 all.
Oh, okay,
That was to
right.
go 2 all. So he's obviously missed the black into
Right, okay.
into the centre, but it was literally where the black is now, right at the top of the sharp rack, and the cue ball was just over in the right-hand side, and it was a straight ball. And I just wonder if that can be quite off-putting for a player, while you're waiting for the referee to come along. You lose that momentum. You got to wait for the ref to come and move the ball. When actually someone like Chris Melling would have just played it off the rack, because the rack's going to play no part. If you play it as a stun shot, it's not going to deviate the ball. So I wonder if that's costing the frame.
Someone's asked what balls these are that they're using, and they are definitely the Pro Cup Aramith balls. Aramith are the one of the tournament sponsors. So yeah, these are and what the Pro Cup balls are is basically the premium set of balls from Aramith. Most distinctive is feature of these, as opposed to the others, is the reds are obviously a deeper colour, and the black ball has got well, effectively it's a white ball with a black sort of thick stripe around it. Presume that he's playing the cannon here with side, and providing that this red goes into the right corner, he'll take this. Does it go over here? Not so sure, can't really tell from that camera angle. He's having a good look. Yeah, I think I can see a bit of a gap there between the red and the yellow, which probably tells me it does go off the knuckle. And he'll definitely take this because he's dead straight onto this into the corner. Don't expect him to miss this. See, cue's too straight to miss that. And it's obviously tight, but he couldn't have put the cue ball in a better place with his hand. So, as I said, that happens when you make a mistake at this level. It does. Your opponent then does tend to break and clear next frame, or you break dry and he clears, and that's exactly what's happened there. And although it's only 4-2 and it is still raised to 11, Craig won't be wanting to let him slip too far away, because not only obviously do you run out of frames and lose the match, but the pressure starts to build the further behind you get, and you start to maybe grip the cue a little bit too tight, or decelerate, or not quite push the cue through the same, and your opponent's the opposite. He's sort of strutting around the table. So next couple of frames quite important for me that Craig gets back into it. Dave Willamot has asked me a question. Who's my pick for the tournament? We did, me and Nick, I think the first match that we commentated on, I did ask Nick, and I think Nick gave me about 5 or 6 different players, and I picked Tom Cousins, so that was my pick. So, and I think he's still in. On the winner's side, I think he's actually playing Clint Jansen at the minute on the winner's side.
Yes, he is, yeah. And Clint's 5-2 up. And my main pick was Marc Boyle, and he's obviously on the loser's side, so who knows? Gareth Hibbert was one of my others, and he's 5-4 up against Rob Chilton. But I was covering my bases.
Yeah. Well, I'll switch to Clint Jansen then, seeing as he's actually 5-2 up, and he's the informed guy, obviously just coming off the back of the Chinese 8-ball win in Bridlington, and I do think he is a player that is very good and is long overdue a win on at the English 8-ball.
I think it's really difficult to ever look past Phil Harrison. He's 11-1. He's beaten Stefan Rosidi there.
Yeah, and it's amazing because obviously everything that he's done, certainly in the English 8-ball world, he is without doubt being the best player in the world for the last, well, arguably 4 or 5 years at least. I think the tournaments that he's won, you know, whatever your argument of which rule set in which association, he probably has been the best player in the world. Over that sustained 4 or 5 years, there's argument over the last couple that, you know, Gillespie's in there and, you know, a couple of others, and it's amazing because even though he's doing what he's doing, he doesn't seem to get spoken about like the other big guns. It's strange. He just seems to slip under the radar, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's in the semis, and next minute, a day later, he's won.
Are you surprised in any way with the people that are now transferring, like Tom Cousins and Chippy transferring across to the IPA? Are you surprised in any way that Phil hasn't ever considered it?
Well, before, to be honest, it was probably a bit of a muchness at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
he liked where the tournaments were being played. You know, they were quite central to his house,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
didn't really have to do much travelling. And where I think now he hasn't really got a choice now, so he's gonna have to. And look, it doesn't matter whether it's these rules, world rules, or Black Ball rules, or make your own rules. Or
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter.
Phil Harrison is gonna still win pool tournaments.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Are you? Do you get the feeling in any way that pool is starting to morph towards darts, where you've got like the PDC, which is the kind of glittering prize, you know, Sky Sports and all the rest of it, and you've got the BDO, which is almost like the feeder, the best players from the PD. And is pool going to go that way, where you've got the you know, the best players from the UK tour feeding into
No, absolutely.
IPA?
Well, I don't think it's ever going to be where it's feeding in the sense of where they work together.
No, I don't mean that.
Yeah,
but
but I know exactly what you mean. And
the big money's in the PDC, isn't it?
And it's a great point, and I've always thought that that's how it's been, even for maybe the last, well, you know, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and I think that's a great comparison to make, because you've got the BDO, which is like the county and interleague side of it, which is the EPA, Yarmouth,
Yeah.
etc. side of things, and then you've got the PDC, which is like you say, the Sky Sports, the big money, and all of and that is the sort of IPA side of it now, and
Yeah.
I do think that is a really good comparison to how it's going, and I think it's been like that for a long time. You know, on the World Rule side, they play all the team events and, you know, all the county and the interleague stuff, and that's exactly what they do with the BDO.
Yeah. And what do you? I mean, without giving away any of Lee's plans, even if you are aware of them.
Fantastic shot there, Dominic.
What do you think the? Where do you see the Supreme Series going? Would you anticipate maybe next year? Because everyone thought this is the biggest thing to happen to pool. We brought all the players together, and Jason Shaw and people like this. But you mentioned yesterday bringing people like Corey Jewell in, or maybe bringing some of the Chinese players in. Do you see this morphing into something bigger and better, and maybe even getting to a point where you can take it to mainstream?
Yeah,
I mean,
sorry,
if you can't answer that, because
no,
you know,
sorry. I was just reading a few of the comments. Sorry. Yeah. So, firstly, what I think that Lee's done is, I think the timing of what he did was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And because at the time, you know, players weren't happy with either set of rules, either association. There was problems. There was, you know, I don't need to go into all of what the problems were, but there was problems. Players weren't happy on either side. So I think, firstly, the timing of it was perfect to go, right, I'm going to make something that's everyone's happy with. I want to do something that everyone wants to play in. And firstly, I think that was that. What I personally think needs to happen if this is to continue to grow is, I think it needs to be played firstly to these set of rules.
Yeah.
I think you need to scrap the other rules, not because they're world rules and because it's run by the EPA, and not because they're Black Ball rules that's run via the IPA, or whether it's any other rules run via anybody else. It's just that these are the best set of rules to play.
And it's a more universal, more attractive
it's
worldwide.
It's a more universal market worldwide. Everybody knows these.
Yeah.
Everybody around the world knows these rules. People think, oh, these are new rules. They're not new rules. They've been playing American 8-ball, Chinese 8-ball, and any other 8-ball worldwide for years.
frame, Marc Farnsworth
So,
leading 5 frames to 2.
firstly, I think it has to be played to these rules, which then gives it its own identity. Along with that, it's got the cloth, this new cloth that I think looks amazing. The contrast of the balls to this cloth looks great. Firstly, the cloth has to play great, which it does, is the most important part. So you've got its own unique style with that. And what I mean by the unique style with that is, of course, you've got a load of different cue sports being streamed all over the world, whether it be snooker, whether it be 9-ball, 10-ball, 8-ball, Chinese 8-ball. There's loads of different stuff. And I think if you add one colour, and it was like, these are the rules, this is a colour table. When somebody switches a stream on, they're instantly going to go, ah, that's English 8-ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Rather than, not say it looks like a mini version of anything or a mini version of snooker, but, you know, it has its own identity then. It has its own, and the rules make sense. The rules are not where if you explain them to someone, they go, well that's a bit of a load of rubbish, to be honest.
I know.
So I think those are the first two things that I think he should definitely do if he takes it forward. And then obviously the support of everyone and the players is that needs to go hand in hand with it, which I think, you know, he'll get. So I suppose time will tell. And I just, you know, players have wanted something like this for a long time, and something that I was saying earlier as well. I think the big thing now, which there's never been, certainly in my experience of English 8-ball, and I've been playing since I was 7 years old and in the junior England team since I was 11, is you have people that are involved in the game now that are in it for the right reasons, and we've never had that before, certainly as long as I've played the game. There's always been people with their own hidden agendas and whatever else, where now you have the people that are running these events that are in it for the right reasons. I'm not saying them people shouldn't make money out of it, and I'm not saying that those people, because it has to stack up for everybody. You can't have all you guys doing all of this and all the other you know, people that are involved, the refs, everybody. You can't have them people doing it for nothing. Of course, it's got to financially stack up to everybody. But as long as everyone knows where it's at and everything's on the table, then that's the way it should be done. It needs to be run as a business, just like the darts is with Barry Earn, just like the snooker is with Barry Earn. He wouldn't be doing it if he wasn't making a lot of money out of it. So just quickly here, we'll go back to the pool. Just one question. So a guy has said it annoys him that I commentate on this but don't actually participate. Why is this? It's because that my schedule in China didn't allow me. I missed the last 2 events, and I was supposed to miss one of the others. So then I can't play in the grand final. So then effectively I would have missed 4 out of the 5 events. And unless I have time to put at least a little bit of practice in, it's not something I want to come back to half-heartedly, having not played for 5 or 6 years. So if in the future the schedule allows me to come back and at least play a couple or 2 or 3 of the events, and it gives me time to put some practice in, then I'll consider playing. And just going back to this, Craig broke off and missed another ball at the start of this rack, which has left Marc another chance, and he cleared. Sorry, I think it was the rack before he cleared, and then now he's broke and he's going to clear again, and it looks like exactly what I said, Nick. Another mistake from Craig is going to cost him another 2 frames.
A couple of people asking who's playing in the competition, and also where they can find the draw. If you want to look at the full draw, it's at qscore.com. Along the top tab you'll find the live switch. If you click that, then you'll see a link to the Home Leisure Direct Grand Final, and you will see the full draw from yesterday morning and exactly where we are and all of the live scores.
I can see how he stayed down on that. He stayed, and you can hear the support that Marc's got there. A lot of the lads from the northeast have arrived down today, and he has got a huge following. I've seen he once played a money match here at this club quite a few years ago against Adam Davies. Adam Davies is obviously a local player to here, and it actually looked like Marc Farnsworth was the home player. He brought that many people with him.
Didn't he take about 70 or 80 people when he went across to Ireland?
He did,
and
yeah.
He played Kyle O'Donoghue, didn't he? And
he's got arguably the biggest following in pool. And a few of those guys are down today. Another guy that has got a big following is Clint Jansen from the Nottingham boys. And we said he was 5-2 up in the winner's side against Cousins. I can tell you that that's now 5-4.
Chris Melling 9-4 up against Jimmy Croxton.
Yeah, I think that Jimmy won his first 2 matches, but with all due respect, there were 2 matches which he's supposed to win. I think if he could have handpicked the draw, I think he may have not been too far away from picking it the way it was those first 2 matches. And I just didn't fancy Jimmy to win that match. I just thought Chris might have too much for him, but it's a big match because this match here guarantees, if you win, 2 chances to qualify. 2 chances to qualify to the last 16 straight knockout.
Jack Whelan is 6-1 up against Jordan Shepherd now.
You know, the amazing thing about that with Jack is Jack's actually been on holiday to Vegas for the last week, and he actually only landed yesterday morning, and he was playing yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
So he landed in London, literally just drove home, collected his cue, and come straight here and played and won 11-0 yesterday, and he's now 6-1 up against one of the pre-tournament favourites.
Yeah.
So do not ask me where the logic in that is. But one thing it does say is, look, you know, Jack is a very talented guy, and although he's not been playing, I think after a couple of matches he'll settle back in, and he is a former world champion.
Reds in play.
A must-win frame from Craig here.
Marc just looks super focused to me. We just got a shot of him before this frame sitting in his chair, and he just sort of looks bang up for it, to be honest.
So all he can do here is just drop across and play it long down the rail.
To be honest, I thought he would have gone yellows. I think there was a case for going yellows here. I know he had a bit of a tougher first shot, but I think if he'd have made the one down the rail, I think he wins the frame comfortably.
Yeah.
You see, your mindset here of, I'm going to play this down the rail. If I get it over the pocket, I'm okay. But at these rules, if you get it over the pocket, you're not okay.
Yeah.
You've lost.
And that yellow's far enough away that it's not making it a big pocket. You'd have to miss it by a country mile for that to help.
Because if he gets this over the hole, all Marc does is snicks off the yellow that's closest to it and pots it.
Yeah, and leaves him snookered.
And leaves him snookered, and the black doesn't go in the middle if he comes up and down and pots it.
He's nailed it. Or has he? Yes, he has.
I couldn't have hit it any better. It stayed dead straight. He's still got a little bit of a shot to play here.
Yeah. Black clearly doesn't go to left centre.
Just a little bit of right hand side and come inside it, hopefully for the same pocket. Ooh,
No
we
good.
forgot the side.
No good.
We forgot to put any right hand side on.
His target would have been that yellow, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those where as long as you get some side on, if you get a little bit too much and hit it too soft, you want it into the right middle of the corner, and like you say, to come through the gap and aim for the yellow to pot it in the corner. Now he's got absolutely no shot. I always like players that try to play some. You know what he's playing here? He's trying to clip it into the middle of the table and then pot it with a white.
Pot it.
That's what he tried. And I do like players that do try and play some sort of shot. I mean, there would have been some players there that would have just got down and just, you know, crashed it off the back cushion and hoped to find a palm. But I do like players that try to work out a proper shot, and he did try to work out a proper shot there. I think he probably needed a little bit of left-hand side on the cue ball to just track it up towards the black, but easier said than hindsight. But at least he tried to play something.
But another mistake, and possibly another 2 frames that could easily be 8-2 the next time he comes to the table.
I thought the first shot that Marc played there into the middle was a little bit poor. He wanted to be straighter on that one that he just potted, which would have meant he was straight on this one across the back cushion. I don't expect him to miss it, but he could miss it, where if he was right behind it on this top cushion, he couldn't miss it. Well, not only did he pot it, he potted it confidently and went up the table for the top one. May decide if he's got the angle, he might play the one in the middle of the table next to the black and go 2 rails. Side rail, top cushion, and outside the yellow. I think he's got that angle. There you go, 2 rails, just come outside it. He doesn't want the white on the rail though. And now it's on the rail, he has to play the one in the bottom end here. And I think the natural angle is okay, just concentrate on the pot, as long as you don't pot it too thin. If he pots it too thin, the white will go towards the black. There you go. Ooh, just got it a bit thin and it did hit the black. The problem was it was hard to get any side on because the white was close to the rail, so he didn't want to jeopardize missing the pot, but
should be okay. He can, looks like he can thin this and maybe just kind of fairly natural angle to come around 3 rails.
Or 2 ways of playing it, or he could dab it in with right hand side if he thinks he can hold it and just go 2 rails.
Yeah.
But I think he's playing your shot thin. And is he
Needs
on?
it to slow down.
Or speed up.
He's going to be sat right on it. May have just gone far enough away where he can nick it back, and you can see there's probably about an inch gap between. That could have been worse. If that gap was any less, I don't think he could have nicked this in, but you can just play across the face of it and still find the potting angle.
It's there.
Yeah.
So that all started, the sort of cue ball on a bungee rope started with the very first shot. He didn't hit the ball into the middle hard enough, and then after then he almost took the balls in. You know, if you had to say to make somebody miss that finish and you had to choose the order of the balls that you had to pot him in, you would probably have chose that order that he went. But he got there, and 7-2 is massive problems for Craig Waddingham now, because not only is it 7-2, but he's made quite a few mistakes, and Marc doesn't look like making any. Someone's asked me on the live chat, how do I think that Zhang Yubo, who's obviously one of the top Chinese players at Chinese 8-ball, would do at English 8-ball? Well, look, he's a very talented guy, and he's very good at snooker as well, so I don't think he's going to be bad at any cue sports, but one thing he is he's a very good cueist, he's very good under pressure, and he's very good at the patterns. So
all the fundamentals.
He's got everything there, but it's the physics of the cue ball on the smaller table with the smaller cue ball than the object balls that I think would fry his brain, to be honest.
I often wonder how some of the Americans would fare, because their fundamentals are very different to ours, aren't they? I mean, that naturally they're using the cue ball, they're using spin and side all of the time, using the table to run around instead of maybe naturally trying to find the shortest route around the table. And
yeah, it's completely different. Everything could, even the cloth, they play on a Simona's cloth, everything's just...
The way they cue with that kind of circular...
loopy cue action.
That loopy cue action, it does make me wonder how players like Corey Jordan and people like that would transition across into the game. I know a couple of them have tried snooker before and played, some...
In my opinion, in 3 words, would be not very good, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think they would make the transition too well, the American guys. At least with the top Chinese boys, well, certainly Yu Bo, he actually uses a snooker cue.
Yeah.
And he's used to playing on a nap cloth.
Yeah.
And he is very good at at the 8-ball, the patterns. He's a very good cueist. He's very, so everything's there. It'll just take him, obviously, a long time to learn the physics of the balls, but he's never going to be bad at it.
A couple of the Americans have transitioned in a small way into Chinese, haven't they? I think Shane Van Boning played a couple of the events over there and did okay. I mean, I guess he's the exception to the rule.
He did okay, and he is the best American player, and he just sort of did okay.
Yeah,
so
true. Yeah.
What that sort of means for the others that are perhaps just okay at the 9-ball game sort of means that they're not going to be great.
Yeah.
To be honest,
they've always got that margin of error on a 9-ball table, haven't they? They can play, sometimes you can play 2 diamonds up and still make the ball. Whereas obviously on a Chinese, you have to be pinpoint perfect to the centre of the pocket.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you can still twitch them when they go in.
Yeah. I think we'll see a bit of twitching next week in the Moscone.
You'll definitely be seeing some in that. And just while we were talking now, I don't know what Marc Farnsworth has done with his break or whose arm he's sewn on for this match, but he's hitting the break a million times better than I think I've ever seen him hit the break. Just got a bit too much side on there. Oh, just gripped off the top rail. Not sure we can pot it, can he? God, he got a lot of side on there.
I think no. I don't think he can quite get through.
And if he can't, he's got a problem.
Yeah, because the one to the outside there's no way of getting back, is there? I mean, I guess he could play it to top left, but well, maybe he feels he can just get through.
Oh, he's not even playing it with any left-hand side, look, so he can actually just get through naturally.
Wow.
Oh, he was perfect.
Just enough.
And the priest has asked me, is there now a case for having the same size cue ball as the object balls? Well, don't get me started on that, because that should have happened a long time ago.
Yeah, we've had that discussion.
I'm not going to go into that, because that one makes me a little bit angry. Oh dear.
Well, that's made this horrible.
Oh, that's made it vile. When you can see Craig's there just shuffling his towel in the background, and if he's doing that while he's on his shot, I'm sure he'll be asking him to keep nice. And he's shuffling his towel like that because he's half expecting to get a shot here. And rightly so, because this is tough.
Chris Melling is through 11-6 against Jimmy Croxton.
Those Cumberland sausages could do with being a little bit longer for this shot, I think. Oh, this is nasty. Across the nap, has to play it slow. Rather him than me. Oh, he says he got a kick. He shouted kick as soon as the cue ball made contact with the object ball. Couldn't really see it because his sort of body was in the way of. But
so is this a way back for Craig?
it was certainly a frame that he had to win, wasn't it? 8-2 is almost curtains. 7-3 still there.
Yeah, 7-3 with the break in the next one. If he can get a breaking dish, then he'll feel like he is back in the game after being very much out of it. Taking a bit of time over this.
Someone's asked me again now, who's my tip for the tournament. Me and Nick did have this discussion at the start, and I did, before a ball was it really, I did say Tom Cousins. He was 5-2 down to Clint Jansen, and he's now about to go 6-5 up.
So are you switching back from Clint now?
Yeah,
Just to clarify.
Did I ever switch to Clint?
You're keeping your options open on this one, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on the score, and then I'll
let you know.
I'll let you know. As expected, he got those, and he's asked to go to the toilet. And probably a good decision from Craig there, because he's obviously made a few mistakes. And it is nice to sometimes let your opponent stew on it. Although Marc's 7-3 up, he will be a little bit disappointed.
Don't forget to go and find this poster, guys. It's pinned to the top of the Players Pool Events Facebook group. The instructions are on the poster. You just need to like it and share it, and you will be in the hat to win a brand new Supreme winner table delivered to your door. Thanks to the generosity of Supreme. And also you see the really nice Supreme Players Pool Events shirts from Mint Promotions. For 25 quid you can own one of those. Why don't you get them for the team? Just get in contact with Mint Promotions on, you see the address at the top right, or contact Emma at mintpromotions.com.
And just on the Home Leisure, obviously, are the title sponsor of this event. They do have a load of new pool tables in stock, along with a load of other stuff. If anyone's wanting a pool table in time for Christmas, they do have some in stock, so check out their website, along with obviously Supreme Pool, another one of our sponsors who actually make the tables. K8.com,
yeah,
betting company.
K8.com is an online bookies. You can go there if you open an account this weekend and make a deposit. Then you will go into a draw to win a Jason Owen handmade cue, a special edition for the Supreme Pool Series. Valued at about 500 quid, so it's worth going across there and sticking a tenner in your account, and who knows, you have a little bet today, you might even get a winner up.
So Craig's broke off. Took a little bit of pace off that break. Made a ball, but I'm not sure he has the easiest of starters. Oh, he does actually. He's got the yellow over the corner. I was initially looking at reds. He's going to go yellows. This table definitely has that extra roll on the cue ball. Look, he played on one of those two yellows into the left middle there, and it's just sort of tracked on another couple of rolls at least. This now tells me that he's going to leave the one down the rail. He's tough ball until last. So he's going to get on it off the one that's over the pocket, and that's okay as long as he gets the right angle on it. hit that nice. Hit that really nice. The best ball he's struck in this match, that.
Yeah. And now 7-4. Putting another one back. Declan Brennan's now through. 11-1 against Chris Day.
And there's a lot of people raving about him, and I did watch a bit of him, and I have to say that he is definitely one to watch for the future.
Yeah. He's got a lovely cue action.
He's got a lovely cue action. He seems to have everything. He's got a good temperament. He's got a good break. His technique's there. His patterns are good. I don't really see a fault with him, to be honest. The only thing that I would say is that he doesn't really have the experience yet in the big events. But once that comes, and I do think that will come pretty quick, I do think he is going to win a lot of tournaments, that kid.
He obviously comes from a snooker background, so a lot of those good fundamentals come from snooker, as it does with many of these players.
Yeah, and I was talking to Ronan, and Ronan been practicing with him for the last week, and he just said they've been playing, sets in the club, races to 11 in preparation for this event, and Ronan just said he couldn't get near him. And I think they've been playing, for 50 quid a set, and he just said I couldn't get anywhere near him in any of the sets. He said he's played unbelievable for a week, and I think he works in the club that they play out of there in Portadown, the Regal, which is a really nice club. I've been in that a few times, and he works in that, and when he's not working, he's practicing. And you see just how quick things can change at English 8-ball. It's amazing. I mean, he had a really routine finish there to go 8-2, and within a couple of minutes, it could be 7-5.
Jack Whelan now 9-3 against Jordan Shepherd. Colin Donahue 8-7 against Andrew McKee. Liam Dunster 7-4 against Toby Bolt. John McAllister 10-3 against Brian Halcrow. Clint Anderson 6-5 against Tom Cousins. And Craig Lakin is 7-6 up against Jordan Church. There's a player who always seems to feature quite a long way into the tournament. Some people don't take Craig Lakin seriously, but he does get the results. He nearly pulled one off against Mick Hill in one of the earlier events.
He's actually very good, and he's actually very talented. And I think because he is so talented, that's the reason why he gets away with doing well when he's on the Jaeger bombs all day.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people that could do that and get away with playing to the level he did. And I think if he wasn't on the Jaeger bombs all day, and maybe someone got hold of him and said, right, you need to do this, this, and this, who knows what damage he could do.
Yeah.
But I think that's a part of his character and a part of what he does, and sort of one of them where love him or hate him, he is a character, and I do think he is good for the game in some respects. He is a character.
Yeah.
And he is a very good player.
I quite like Craig, I must admit. He's, from what I've seen him, he loves a wind-up, but there doesn't seem to be too much malice in it. And when he's playing well, he's a joy to watch.
Craig just seems to have just quickened the pace a little bit here. Maybe, I don't know whether that's something he's done consciously or not, but he just seems to have picked the pace up a little bit. And he's took these out well. And
seems to be flowing.
He just seems, and that's what happens. Your opponent makes a mistake and you feed off it. You censor, and that's what the good players do. They see a little bit of blood and you pounce on it. And he would have been sitting there in his seat a few minutes ago expecting to be 8-2 down. The next minute it's 7-5, his break, and right back in this match. So, apologies when I say Cousins was about to go 6-5 ahead. He actually missed the black. Clint cleared, and he's now got quite an easy last ball to go 6 each. So that match looks like it's going the distance.
frame, Craig Waddingham to break, trailing 7 frames to 5, time running.
Well, this doesn't look too bad, is it? I mean, the yellow that he's closest to goes to the top corner, and then it's really just about whether the yellow passes into bottom left.
Well, yeah, there's a case for reds also if the
Yeah,
yellow,
there
if
is.
the red pots into this left corner. And if it does, then this finish is easy. If it doesn't, then he's got to play probably a cannon off this first shot.
And Jack Whelan is now on the hill against Jordan Shepherd. It's 10-3.
Big win for him, that.
Really
because,
is.
He hasn't had the best of seasons, Jack.
And Jordan's just cleared the table in literally 15 seconds. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
He would be the type of player where his head would fall off a little bit, though, in that scenario. And
well, he literally was throwing those balls in like they were.
Yeah, he's capable of conceding or doing anything. He's that type of character, isn't he? You know, when he's that far behind.
Yeah.
That ball doesn't pass, so you can see there they've bought you the shot, and that's the one I was talking about, the outside red. If that passed into this corner, that would have made all the difference. He's played a very good shot there. It didn't pass, which meant he had to play a really clever little cannon. I don't think he's on this one into the middle now, but it's okay. He can. It would help if he was, but I don't think he is, so I think he'll have to take the bottom one. Two options. He can either play the soft little screw shot through the gap, or he can just stun into the black softly.
Not as planned, but it's
Chose
okay.
a bit of in the middle of the two shots that I said, but got away with it.
Yeah, I think he was going for the gap there, wasn't he?
And, you know, this match is completely sort of turned on its head now, because from what looked like running out an 11-3, 11-4 winner in Farnsworth, now it's game on.
And seemingly all the momentum with Craig fairly flying around the table, and you feel he's going to snap up any mistake from Marc. The pressure's going to be right back on Marc's break now. Knows he has to make a ball from this break. They want to keep Craig at bay, won't want to let him get back on level terms. At the moment, he's still that break of serve ahead.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's the way to look at it is, you know, Marc still needs 4 frames to win the match. So that hasn't changed.
No.
It's just that Craig needs less now, and it is sometimes the way you sort of perceive it and think about it in your own head, but one thing he is doing is he's definitely breaking off better.
Time out.
He'll definitely be getting red because I don't think he can pot a yellow, and I'm not sure if he can pot this red into the middle first shot and hit it quite hard with topspin and almost sort of arc the cue ball into the cluster of reds and yellows. obviously these rules, it's fine if he can get that. You can see there it doesn't look like he can from that angle, but if he hits it hard, the cue ball will jump out wide first with it being lighter, and then the top spin might kick in and just grip on the cloth and hit that cluster. It is a shot which perhaps doesn't look on from that angle, but I think it might be there. So when we so what I'm saying is this one, the red that's over the middle here, I think he can hit it like hard with topspin and just arc the cue ball around that first red and hit the red that's in a cluster with the two reds together and the 3 yellows. I think he can hit that if he hits it hard with topspin.
Jack Willen is on a clearance and he is going to win against Jordan Shepherd. It's going to be an 11-4 victory. He's got 4 balls left, but not going to miss from there.
Obviously, either didn't see the shot or didn't think he could play it. So Marc's basically just decided to down anchors a little bit here and has basically said, I've watched Craig run round for the past 3 or 4 frames and I'm just going to steady the ship a little bit. That's it. Now you see, this is where that is no good to you. There's no advantage having that ball over that pocket whatsoever when that red's there. And the reason why I'm sort of seeing the shots so quick is because these are the rules that I play on the Chinese table and I've played for 6 years. So if I was commentating on a world rules or a black ball rules, I perhaps wouldn't quite be so sharp with the shots, but with it being these rules, it's what I sort of play in day in, day out. And Marc should pot this red. Well, he should have potted the red. And just played the red onto the yellow and potted it, and that would have just been loss of turn. Left the cue ball on this top rail, and he's in massive control. Can he hit this red thin enough to pot the yellow? As long as you make contact with your own ball first, you pot your opponent's ball and it's just loss of turn. Unless you pot your ball, which in this case he won't be potting his ball. I just don't know if he can just snick this red that he's closest to thin and pot the yellow.
Someone asking you if you think that these tables have bigger bags than the average table. I mean, it's been mentioned a few times that they're playing quite big, but this is just a standard Supreme winner, isn't it?
This is a standard Supreme winner.
They don't make them any different, do they? It's just a standard template. This is the same table you'll be playing in the pub.
Yeah, there's not an amateur and a professional cut pocket.
No. So why do these play a little bigger then?
So
Chris Melling was talking about it earlier. So yeah, try to explain that.
So as we said when we were chatting earlier on about why this match table plays a little bit quicker, a little bit slippier, is because the TV lights, the atmosphere, it's hotter in there, it gets brushed and ironed a little bit more. And what it does is when the cushions are brand new and it's got a brand new cloth on the cushions, it slides off the knuckles more than it would on perhaps a club table or a table that's got a 12-month-old cloth on it. So when it hits that near and far knuckle, it naturally wants to slip towards the pocket, as opposed to just sort of what happens is the rubbers harden up a little bit. The rubbers on this table will be a little bit softer, so you see the ball, it bobbles in the pocket a little bit. So it's basically just down to the conditions that are brand new cloth, TV lights, brand new cushions with rubbers, and brand new cloth on the cushions, which make it slide in off the knuckles a little bit more.
Yep.
It's nothing to do with the actual cut size of the pockets. One thing that can happen on these tables, which people don't often realize as well, is you lift the top up and then the slate actually just gets placed down first. If the slate is slightly offset, so you know, if it's slightly over to one side or the other, or pointing slightly in one direction to the other, it can make one pocket play slightly tighter and one pocket play slightly bigger. So if sometimes you may see a ball and think, oh God, that's it halfway down the rail and gone in, it can sometimes be if the slate's not absolutely dead set. In this instance, it is dead set because, you know, they've been sort of quadruple checked, but it is easy to knock the slate and make one side of the table play a little bit bigger than the other. So this is almost like what you call just an open fudge. So an open fudge is you're trying to maneuver your balls into position without leaving your opponent a shot on his balls.
One of the first really tactical frames we've seen all weekend. We saw a bit of a tactical frame yesterday with Scott Gillespie, and I asked him afterwards because he played three snookers in a row, and I asked him if he'd ever played 3 snookers in a row in his life.
But he had a headache after that.
The rules do tend to lend themselves to that, though, don't they? If you've got balls tied up because you don't get a free visit or 2 shots, and sometimes you need to use one of your shots to move a ball and then play the snooker again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, if you don't like the finish, you know, you don't necessarily have to go. You can maneuver your ball and play the snooker, knowing that if he misses it, you're going to have ball in hand again. The balls being like this are really the longest frame that you can get, because even if there's a ball over the pocket, you play the loss of turn shot.
Andy was the guy who asked about whether the pockets were a bit bigger, and he made the point that they just look bigger because the players smash them down the rail and they fly in. But I always think the difference is, like, some of these shots down the rails are quite intimidating to club players, but what people have got to remember is these guys play drills of just smashing balls down the rail. And yes, the pockets play a bit bigger and they slide, but, you know, these guys, like Marc Farnsworth, practices for hours and hours a day, and part of his drill will be hitting ball after ball after ball down the rail. So it just becomes muscle memory, and that's why it looks like they're smashing the balls down the rail and making it look easy. Because
and you have to remember, you know, sitting at home watching this on your TV or on your phone, everything does look a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's something that you need to remember that. But the shot that Craig just played, the one before where he doubled the ball over to this corner, just tells me that he doesn't really understand the advantages of these rules, because Marc should have just potted his ball there, played the red onto the yellow and potted his ball and left him with the cue ball on top of the red. I don't quite understand why Marc didn't play that, but that's what he should have played. So now he is going to play it, and I think he should have played it the shot before, but he is going to play it now. So he's just going to play the red onto the yellow, and that's just loss of turn. Play from where the cue ball lands.
There's a quip from somebody saying that they can see why the game never gets on TV, because, yeah, well, we've had one fudging frame in, what, about 200 frames that we've watched on this arena table over the last 2 days.
So Wayne says he's played the game for 20 years and this has made no difference. Well, he clearly doesn't really understand what he's on about, because these rules make a world of difference. Every top player in the world agrees and says that these rules do make a big difference, and I think that probably outweighs what you're saying, Wayne. Good shot, very good shot. You see, he didn't want to just push it over the pocket. He's played it in a way where he's got the snooker, and now he knows that in order for him to hit one and hit a cushion, he's probably going to have to bring his bad ball out for him.
Yeah. Remembering that there's no totals, he has to hit a cushion.
Well, yeah, this half tactical affair or half open fudge is now over. There you go, it's now over.
Clever stuff there from Marc, just showing that he's, I mean, he is a very, very attacking player, and he will always go for the out. It's his natural default, but showing that he's very adept with the tactical side of the game as well.
People don't understand. People are thinking that it's a foul when you put your opponent's ball hitting your ball and it's just lost a turn. They don't understand. They're thinking that's a foul. It's not the most ridiculous rule. It's the best rule that there is in it. It's the way that makes these rules attacking. It's far from the most ridiculous rule. That and the one-shot ball and hand are the best part of the rules. Until you've played them and you fully understand them, then you don't really understand. This is the longest possible frame that you can have at these rules. It's not possible to have a frame that lasts any longer with two players. If two players are playing that know the rules, it can't be any slower than this. And for TV, you can't have that. There's always going to be players that have their opinion and stuff on rules, but my opinion, and I think every other top 8-ball player in the world, is that these rules are the best set of rules that you can devise for 8-ball, whether it be on this table or any other 8-ball table. And Gene has said that everybody plays these rules all over the world, and they do. It's just new to English 8-ball. These are the most recognized set of rules in 8-ball all over the world, in China and America and everywhere else. Greg says Farnsworth looks right up for taking the title this weekend, and I'd have to agree, he does look right up for it. That was a big frame, by the way, 8-6-7 all after, given what had happened.
Yeah,
that was a big frame for him to win, but I agree, he does look up for it.
flirted with the middle bag, caught the knuckle, but he's okay. Red's all fairly adjacent to that left-hand pocket.
So Adam keeps going on about the rules. So this is the last thing that I'm going to say on this, is these are the set of rules that they're now playing, and these are the set of rules that they need to be playing. And it's one of those where these are the rules, and if you don't like it, then, you know, you don't have to watch, but these are the rules that are being played. The questions that the people like Adam are asking is really because they don't fully understand the advantages of playing them, and how, for the TV and the purpose of not getting bogged down, and a lot of different reasons, that these do make them the most attacking and entertaining rules. The problem is when you're playing 8-ball, you're always playing 2 different sets of balls. So you're always going to have rules that are in some way a little bit complicated. It's not like you're just playing a rotation game, like 9-ball or 10-ball, where it's simple. You hit the lowest ball and that's it, or even snooker for that matter. You know, it's just red colour, and it's pretty much that's what it is. Where you're playing 2 opposite sets of balls, then you're always going to have some sort of rules.
Frame.
Oh, the referee said frame.
Frame called.
So I think that means it's frame over. Well, I think they heard that in the bar. Yeah, thanks for all the good comments. A lot of people saying that they like the explanation and that it makes a lot of sense and the rules make sense, and everything that Nick and myself are saying is good and sensible. So it is nice to have some good comments on there sometimes, rather than just a lot of negative, derogative comments where people are just looking for sometimes, you know, attention or conflict. One Dahlia said, as long as you pot them, it doesn't matter. And
couldn't be more true.
And I agree. It couldn't be more true. As long as you break off and you pot the balls, then.
But I think that's the whole point, isn't it? If you, the whole point of the game, the ultimate point of the game is to break, nominate a particular ball set, and clear the table. And in the ideal world, you break and dish every frame. If you fail to break and dish, the game will punish you.
Yeah, the game will punish you, and if you don't break and clear, and what happens is when you're playing for a huge amount of money in a competition like this, if the rules allow you to cover pockets and allow you to win a 50-minute frame, then that's what players are going to do, because, you know, there's a lot of money at stake.
They'll do whatever they can to win.
They're scared to go for the finish, because if they... So they are going to want to try and, you know, protect. And the other rules, unfortunately, when you do have those scrappy frames, you can have a 50-minute or longer frame. At these rules, it's impossible. If you've got 2 players that fully understand the rules and know how to play the rules to their advantage, it's impossible to have a 40 or 50-minute frame. And when you're looking at taking the game forward with sponsors on TV, or you know, the stream, in this case from, you know, Beard, but on TV and or whatever it is, you can't have 50-minute frames. So it's about making it attacking, making it good to watch, and making it exciting. And most of the time, that's what these guys do, because they don't miss many balls. And you're right, you just break off, and if you make a ball, you're supposed to run out at this level.
So again, we're talking about the Supreme rules. I know a lot of you will. This will be your first introduction to them. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more, there's a short 9-minute video that we made yesterday morning. It's called Introduction to the Supreme Rules. You'll find it on the Beard Productions YouTube channel. Also, if you go along to the Players Pool Events page, you'll find at the top of the page, pinned there, are the rule set you can read through. So, wow.
Marc's missed there, and so obviously you can play the skill shot. If you don't get the skill shot, then it's just loss of turn. So what you may choose to do is pot the one in the middle, screw the cue ball back so he's straight on this red, and then try to play the skill shot. Like that.
Now the only problem with this, a failed combination would be loss of turn, but a totally open table for Marc. So this is a must get.
It's a must get, but it's not as big as punishment as 2 shots, or
No.
so it's a very good shot he's played there. He played it with topspin. When you're playing it with topspin like that, you have to make sure you hit the ball flush to make it go forward. And it looks to me like he's got a good angle on the one in the middle to run on and off the top cushion.
Yeah, has to be looking at playing the ball on the rail as his next ball.
Yeah.
After this
And
one on
then
the red.
and not only does he need to play it, but he needs to screw it back a little bit. So he needs to be good, and he'd want to be close to this while he's screwing it, is he? He feels though he couldn't play on and off the top cushion. Oh, I'm not sure about this pattern. Well,
No.
you know, it's an option. It's an option to kick the black over to the pocket. It's an option to play this where he plays it with the left-hand side and kicks the black over to the side pocket, so then all he has to do is worry about potting the red.
Yep. Another option would be to come down table and maybe double the red and send the white around the angles.
And then the white's doing laps, though,
Yeah.
and then you've got to get from one end of the table to the other to get to the black.
He's going for the long one.
Mine's playing this one first.
Yeah.
Wow. Not sure about that
I'm not
choice.
sure.
I think he might have heard us there, because I know he is going to play it. Oh, this is tough because he's got to screw on and off this side cushion, and if he does even do that, he might land the wrong side of the red, so he's still got to come in and out of bulk.
That's a really tough shot. Oh, it dropped.
Wow. I have to say, how's that gone in? I have to be completely honest. Jesus, that shouldn't even really hit the knuckles, never mind go in.
No.
I mean, let's check this out again. Watch how thick he hits this. Oh, my God. Call the police.
It's the momentum of the ball that's carried it across the line as well, isn't it? It's,
Call the police. There's been a robbery in players. Oh, and after all that, he's now going to have to play a double.
I'm right in thinking a deadweight double wouldn't be a disaster if it stayed over the pocket. Because...
Yeah, deadweight double's good. He potted it. Great clearance. Still. So if any of you wanting the rules there, I presume that that's the link that Andy Sheldon has put up to the rules. Yeah, it is. So if any of you want to just check the rules out there, you can read them.
frame. Craig Waddingham to break. 8 frames all. Time running.
There's lots of questions coming in regarding the rules now, and so we're just going to concentrate a little bit more on the match. And if you do want to check out those rules, Andy Sheldon has been good enough to put a link onto the rules, so you can just have a little read through them.
Oh, what a great break this is from Craig, and shortly he may well be in charge of this game. So he's got it back on serve.
And all this came from that frame at 8-2, Nick, didn't it? When he had that easy clearance and landed bridging. Okay, I know he said it, you know, he got a kick, but he should never have been bridging over that yellow. And all this has sort of come from there.
Just let that one go a fraction, hasn't he?
No, I think he played quite a good shot there, because he had to really manufacture an angle there to get through the gap. So he had to sort of pop the ball into the left side of the pocket, and he actually played a decent shot there. Can tell you now that Tom Cousins is on the hill, 10-7. So I might change back if that's okay.
Any information you need, guys, it's all on the Players Pool Events page. Anything you want to know about the series, the prize fund, the upcoming streams. If you follow that page, if you like it, you'll get the notifications.
Clever little shot there. Craig just potted the one into the middle, and it might have looked like a normal shot, but what he did is he pushed the yellow over to the left side of the table. And I don't know if the black goes past the red, but if it doesn't, he's pushed that yellow into a perfect place to drop down onto the black.
He's tried to move it.
Why is he trying
Probably
to
not
move
needed
it?
to.
Didn't need to move it. If you don't need to move balls, then you don't play into them.
Yeah.
He didn't need to move that. And the reason why I said is he played a good shot the shot before is because the yellow he pushed to the left side of the table, he left a perfect angle. So let's say he got the cue ball where it is now, and this was his last ball. He just drops down onto the black.
Just dropped on it. He's going to have another go at it now, though. He got it this time, but he's in trouble with the cue ball.
He's just okay, Nick. He got lucky. He can play this cushion first. He can play this cushion first, go 2 rails, and land on the one into the right middle. So he's just going to play side cushion first. He's got to allow for the slide, so you see how high up the rail he's hitting. Not quite high enough up, because he wanted to land on these into the right middle. And now he has a tough shot. It's there, and it's right in the middle.
Well, here goes. For the first time in the match, he takes the lead, 9 frames to 8.
And you have to say, all credit to Craig, because he was 7-2 down and was basically half a roll away from going 8-2 down, and maybe even just a kick what Marc got from going 8-2 down. And then since then he's been faultless, really. And although a couple of finishes he's maybe gone around the houses a little bit, he's still got the finish, and it doesn't say how on the score sheet, it just says who. So all credit to him for coming back into this match. And this match is building up nicely now, because there's a few people coming in to watch, as that always does happen when a match goes close. I know there's been a couple of mistakes from either player, Nick, in this match, but on the whole, it's been a pretty good standard.
Yeah.
And a bit of a tough score when, you know, you should go 8-2 up, and then really you miss one chance, and the next minute you're 9-8 down.
Yeah, yeah. That's really effectively what Marc did to Craig in the first half of the match, wasn't it? Craig made just a couple of mistakes, and Marc punished him 2 frames at a time.
Yeah, and what you want when you're 9-8 down is a finish that's easy, and these are far from easy. He'll go reds.
It's a messy table, but he just seems to find a way.
He'll go reds, and I think he'll play the plant if he can get to it. First shot, and kick one of his bad reds out. Well, he's playing this one first. Given that he hasn't really potted a ball for a few frames, wasn't the easiest of starters, that, and not sure what advantage that's given him. Maybe he thought he couldn't play the plant first shot and it was a little bit thin. So now it's a chance. Now it's a chance for Marc. And one you feel he has to get. A lot of the players you can see that have finished their matches there in the background. There's Ben, there's
all crowding out,
there's Ronan, there's
Drew Hughes,
the young lad,
Jordan Shepherd's there.
Declan, who I was talking about, who I do think has got a big future. He's now in effectively what would be like the hot seat qualification match.
Is his plan here going to be to double the middle red of those 3 on the left-hand rail, or is he at some point going to try and move it?
Yeah, I like the shot of playing the double and just leaving the cue ball almost where the red is, then potting the one into the corner and screwing back onto the black.
Yep. Just looking at.
So what he's going to do is he's going to come off the top rail and kick into the middle red. So the red that you just
try and move it.
Talking about doubling it, yeah, he's going to move it, and hopefully at the same time the red will move the red and the black.
Yeah, I'm with you. I quite like the double. It seemed
I would have definitely played
pretty
the double.
straightforward double.
Yeah, I would have played the double and screwed back into it. I don't think it could have gone wrong that way. I think it can go wrong this way.
Oh, that's not enough pace either, is it?
Oh no! He spotted a shot. Look.
Oh, he's going in off the red.
He spotted a shot.
Yeah.
He spotted a shot red off red into the middle, but he's short.
It's still makeable, but the cue ball's going to be away from the rail.
It is, and he doesn't know where the other red's going to go.
Yeah.
Where's the other red going to go? No.
Tied up.
Dead. Oh dear. Oh. Okay, he played a bit of a bad positional shot on what he spotted was the ball and off the ball. but I do think he went the wrong way. I do think he should have played the shot that we suggested of the double, and then this one is closest to just pot it and play a little soft screw shot into the black and the red. Not allowed to play push shots, so he needs to be careful. So, in any other set of rules, certainly world rules, this would mean that red balls are still in the frame, or are still sort of got some sort of hold in the frame. At these rules, it means you have no hold in the frame whatsoever. It means that you're dead, because all you have to do now is pot your ball and play yellow onto red, get the cue ball at the table, and it's just loss of turn. I really don't think Craig understands what he's doing at these rules. I honestly don't think Craig understands what he's doing at these rules.
No.
Because all he needs to do is pot the one in the middle, pot the yellow in the middle, and then play the yellow onto the red and get the cue ball back up the table and sucker him, and it's just loss of turn.
Yeah.
Oh, this is unbelievable. Well, now he's perfect. Now he has to play. And he's seen Marc Farnsworth play this shot enough times.
Yeah.
I don't understand how he's not seeing the shot. Oh no, he isn't good. He's
going for the breakout.
He really doesn't know what he's doing. Wow.
And he's just played himself into trouble.
Well, he deserves to lose the frame now for me, because for someone who is as good as Craig Waddingham is, and he's good enough to win this tournament, for him to turn up here not knowing that he can play that shot is just unforgivable. And now he's decided that he can play it, you see. Now he's remembered he can play it.
Yeah, instead of playing it while the red ball's tied up.
The red ball was tied up. He now wants to play it when it's in the open.
He's just left it plumb.
He deserves to leave it plumb. He really does deserve to leave that plumb. And it actually isn't plumb, Nick, I don't think. I think he might have to play the cross double.
Just at the wrong angle.
Yeah, I don't know if he can clip the black into the middle if he just pots the red.
Yeah, I think you're right. I thought it was a touch straighter than it was, but...
Yeah, if it was straight, fine, but if he's on the off angle, he may have to play the double.
He's going to play the double, I think. Yep.
And he's got it.
Top lip.
Oh, top lip.
What a let-off for Craig this is.
Big let-off.
What a let-off.
Craig's trying again to throw this frame away.
Damn. I mean, this is a massive frame, but that's no good, I don't think, is it?
Oh, I think he's snookered himself, has he?
Yeah. Well, not quite snookered himself, but he can't see the potting angle. That is no good. He needed to be another 2 or 3 inches to the left. I think he's overhit that by a bit of a margin. And I think the middle bag's in the way of the cushion first, isn't it?
It is.
Wow.
He's swerving it. You can see it digging down right hand side.
This is tough.
Great camera angle there. You can see it. Wow.
Well, if he does go on to lose this match, he'll look back on this frame and know that this is where it went wrong after making a fantastic comeback. The wheels have just fallen off a bit during this frame. This needs cueing though.
Oh.
No good. So Red going to come to his rescue? No.
Well, we've seen more mistakes in this one frame than
It's
we've seen in the whole match, haven't we?
It's unbelievable. And even this shot is not just, he can't just drop it in and hold, can he? I think he's got to come around the table. Maybe I'll be able to just screw around 2 rails. No. Oh, goodness me.
Oh.
What is going on? Bit of pressure. Such a key frame.
And they both obviously
Both
know
players
the
are feeling it.
importance of it.
And again, this is another one where over the bag, there's not a lot of good, really.
Well, it's better when there's only the black on the table.
This is going to be skinny.
Well, that's flew off the top rail, isn't it?
Yeah.
They get a big bounce there.
Well, it's gone so far. He's got it. He played for it to the middle. He's got it into the bottom corner. Yes. Wow. Finally gets over the line, and you can see Ronan McCarthy in the background geeing him up. This is his good friend, and no doubt, probably, knowing Ronan, got a betting slip with Marc Farnsworth's name on it somewhere.
Yeah. It was the shot that he was trying to play. Well, he did get enough swerve on, but you see what happens when you play with right-hand side. The cue ball pushes out to the left first before it swings back into the right. And he just pushed out a little bit too far to the left, and it didn't have time to come back in. But it did all come from making the unbelievable mistake with the rules. And like you say, if he does go on to lose this match, then that'll be something which, you know, I'm sure even Craig will, because he realised the second time he could play it, but the time when he should have played it, he just didn't spot the shot.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, it's 9 frames all. Still everything to play for both players.
Yeah, I was just having a chat with Paul there from Beard off air, and he was just saying how exciting he thought this match was, because it's had a bit of everything. It's had misses, it's had great clearances, it's had mistakes from the rules, it's had big pots, big finishes, and it's had swings, and there's just been another swing there because he's just broke. I think he's made a ball or two, but he's, I don't know if he actually got kicked in off or whether he screwed straight in off. Actually, I couldn't really see, but what he has done is left a really easy finish. So a foul from the break is ball in hand, but only anywhere behind the line. Any other foul is ball in hand anywhere on the table, but from the break it's just behind the line. Land on his bad ball up the cushion now. Just flicked it and it's actually helped him. Just helped to slow the cue ball down a little bit, the little flick. There's Daz Arkle there talking to Ronan, who's one of Marc's good friends. Obviously travelled all the way down from the northeast to watch, and as he plays himself, he's a decent player himself, and there's him and a lot of the guys that have travelled down to watch, and you can hear the support he's got in there.
Well, there's drama all around. I just stepped away to the bathroom, and on the way back, I just watched the last couple of shots of the conclusion of Rob Chilton versus Gareth Hibbert, 10 frames each. And Gareth Hibbert took out a great clearance to win that. So he progresses through.
Oh, and he's just landed right in between both pockets. He's just over hit it for the corner and under hit it for the middle. And sometimes, you know, when you're playing a bit of a choice of two pockets, that's what happens. You finish in the middle of them, and that's what he'd have been doing there. He would have been playing on it in the corner, but he'd have known if he'd have over hit it, he'd have been on it in the middle. And he is, as you can see, right in the middle. Playing this shot, he is going to be, obviously, he's going to dig down on the cue ball, but the cue ball will hit the black. Played it good.
Yeah.
Controlled the cannon good.
And Craig being punished to the max for those mistakes in the last frame. Through already to the winners' qualification: Phil Harrison, Chris Melling, Gareth Hibbert, Josh Kane, Declan Brennan, Jack Whelan, Liam Dunster's On the Hill versus Toby Bolt. Carl Morris is 9-5 up against Carl Boys. Carl Donahue, John McAllister, Tom Cousins, Gary Clark, Richard Toomey and Craig Lakin, who triumphed over Jordan Church. Carl Morris has gone deep in pretty much every event in the series without managing to make himself to the very latter stages. I think he's made a quarter-final, maybe a couple. Reeling back the years, 1998 world champion. Players taking, and spectators taking every advantage point at the back of the room, craning over other people to get a look at this break, the biggest break that Marc's played in the tournament yet. Oh no.
It's the worst.
Oh no. And look, just look. The familiar stance of Marc with the cue behind his head as he does when he makes an error.
Oh dear.
Craig Marsh and Drew Hughes, Jack Whelan all craning to get a look. I mean, he couldn't have crunched that. It couldn't have gone any worse, could it? To go in off and leave this. It's,
No, and that's the worst break he's hit in this match as well. He's like I said to you at the start. I thought he's been hitting the break in this match as good as I've ever seen.
But wow. He's going to play cross table to play the yellow in the opposite centre, and this really was the simplest of clearances for Craig Waddingham. He still had to get them. Get them he does.
And you probably have to say the way it's gone, Nick, that it has deserved a deciding frame.
It really has.
This match, and the atmosphere there is out there.
Brilliant.
Now it's just added to it, and I think that although the Farnsworth fans won't agree, but I do think it has deserved a decider. And Craig obviously did unbelievably well to get back into this match from 7-2 down, and I think he has earned himself this decider, and it is his break. You can see there he's got a couple of supporters behind him just sort of cheering him on, and the room has filled up now. Everyone's filtered through from watching the other matches to watch the conclusion of this, and it has made for a great atmosphere.
So, will Marc Farnsworth get another chance? Will he come back to the table? All he'll be hoping for is any kind of chance. He won't care what the table looks like.
Yeah, that's all you can ask for in a decider, is you just want a chance. You don't care how hard it is, you just want a chance. You just want to get to the table and have some sort of chance. And I'm not sure he's going to get one.
Massive break. And it really is.
Oh, he's made 3 balls.
I think this is it, isn't it? I mean, it's not a load of dollies, but the yellows don't look too bad.
I think he might go reds.
Well, yeah, you may be right with the
I think he's going to go
opening
reds.
red into the middle to nudge that yellow aside, just to clear the path through the other 2
He's got to
reds.
be careful where he knocks it, because there's a yellow down here. We just got to be careful where he bumps this yellow to, and it couldn't have been any better.
And you saw Marc just almost readjust himself and assign himself that this may be curtains. You don't expect a player of Craig Waddingham's quality to miss from here, but pressure does some very, very funny things to the brain and also to the back elbow.
It does, and all of those people in there do some contribute to the funny things to the brain and the back elbow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a strange shot. Oh dear. Oh, well, he'll have to play it into the left centre. I think he can just play it with some right hand side and miss the cannon on the black.
Yeah, this is now tougher than it should have been. His heart will be in his mouth.
What a great camera angle.
Yes.
And he's short. He's short. He played to be on the one on the rail, and he's short. He's okay, but he's short. He would have liked to have been on the one down the rail next.
This won't be the first time he's been in a high pressure situation. He had those couple of money matches against Mark Boyle, which went to the wire.
He does cue the ball nice, Craig, and he's had a big bounce. He got a big bounce off that first cushion, you know. And this red doesn't go into the left middle. It doesn't go into the left corner. It doesn't go into the top left corner. So he's only got the right-hand side of the table to pot it. So if he can't hold it, he's got to come twice across.
Yeah.
Well, he's sort of held it. Like to have been a bit straighter, but obviously the black does go to the right corner. So he might have to, well, he can just top it and play the black to the right middle. which I think is probably the safer option.
How's he feeling?
I wouldn't stun it, I would just top it so you play on the black.
Oh my God, and he's hampered. Oh my
Well, I don't understand why he didn't just top that and just come across the face of the black and land on it into the right middle. He played the cannon in, and obviously when you're playing a cannon, it can obviously go wrong.
He'll be thinking, why is this game never easy?
In all fairness to Craig, he's probably thought once playing the cannon, it couldn't have really gone much worse than that.
No.
Because he couldn't go off. In all fairness to him, it couldn't have gone much worse. But when you don't need to play a cannon, then don't play it. And
Wow.
the only good thing is, yes, he's bridging, but it is straight. I need to get a look at the black. It's in.
He's got it. Nailed it. Well done to Craig Waddingham. What a fantastic match. That really was. It had absolutely everything. That's what this Supreme Pool Series is all about. We're going to catch Craig for an interview. We'll drag him into the interview room, and he'll be here within the next couple of minutes, so stick with us. Thanks very much again, Gareth. Always a pleasure to hear your insight and your expertise on the game. And we'll be back with you momentarily.
Joined by Craig Waddingham and Gareth Potts. That for me is what this grand final is all about. High drama, hill game. Just give us your initial thoughts on that, Craig.
Well, I was a few down at the start of the match, and you've got to stick in there really, hoping you get a few chances. And he went off a few times off the break and gave me a chance to get back in, and I started to get a bit of rhythm, and luckily I managed to get over the line.
Yeah, I mean, you were looking down the barrel of 8-2 at one point. He made a mistake, which let you back in, and then the momentum was firmly with you. As you say, you made a couple of mistakes, and you got back on level terms at 8 apiece. But then, did you feel like maybe it had slipped away in that one frame where you probably should have won it? I think it was to go 10-8 up.
Yeah. I've just totally forgot to put the ball. I just thought cannon the black. I thought I might have got enough in the middle bag, but that's it's one of them things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you were 7-2 behind, and against
himself,
he landed Chinese over the ball, and he missed the black into the middle, and then from then it just completely swung the momentum. You played great to get back into the match. You didn't really make any mistakes. You're obviously then 9-8 up. He's then made a mistake at 9-8, left the ball over the pocket. And I don't know whether you've been practicing the rules, the way out with the rules.
No.
But when he played that, there was a few times in the match where he potted your ball. He then left us over the pocket, and all you've got to do is play yours onto his, leave his tied up, and you've won the frame. we spoke about it just before we came on air, and you said you just completely forgot about playing that shot.
Yeah, if I'm on there again, I'll look at you and ask you what to do.
Yeah, I'll do 20% though, right? But yeah, there was that time, and then I think you've played a few shots, and then you've remembered to play it.
Yeah,
and then you've played it badly and left it in.
It was one of them where you had to top it through a touch and hit it a
Yeah.
little bit harder, because I don't think it was natural to cannon the red, but luckily he's missed that, and then I've missed, and then drama.
Yeah, there was a lot of drama in that frame, but then obviously, from I think me and Nick said on the commentary, it was a fantastic match. It was a great standard, especially in the middle part of the match, and I think it did deserve a decider, that match.
Yeah, I think going back to earlier, I think if he doesn't Chinese snooker himself, I think I'm
It's
pretty
8-2.
much gone.
8-2, yeah.
But it's massive, and he actually got a kick as well. It straightened up.
Yeah, we heard him shout kick. Yeah, but there's an argument. He perhaps shouldn't have been Chinesed over the yellow. That completely changed the match. But in all fairness, he did play great from that, and
I started to break a bit better, and his break went a bit, because he broke unbelievable at the start. He was making 2 or 3 balls a rack, but I suppose he's got a stick in there, haven't you know yourself.
Yeah, and one last thing was the atmosphere in there obviously sounded electric. There was a lot of players towards the end of the match, which always happens when a match goes close. You always get a lot of people come through. They were filtering through from the bar watching the other matches, and certainly the last frame there was a lot of people, probably the most I've seen in this tournament around that match, and that does sort of generate its own pressure in itself.
I think if you don't like being in that environment, you shouldn't be doing it anyway. I think that's where you want to be.
That's what you play for, isn't it? That's what you practice
more the better, because I think you try, can't try anymore, but you seem to concentrate a little bit more, take that extra second, and it helps you, I think.
Yeah. I think I mentioned the same thing. I mean, it's not alien to you. You've been in that pressure cooker environment a couple of times in money matches when it's been a tight finish. So handling that pressure. But you're playing for £51,000. Does that kind of play on the mind a little bit, or are you just
not really? No,
brushing that aside.
You just play. You don't think about the money, because it's a minefield. You've got to keep going. You don't think about the money, and if you win it, it's a bruise, isn't it?
Greg, best of luck for the rest of the tournament. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure watching that game.
Thank you.
So, guys, thanks for watching. We've got another great game coming up in just a few moments. It's going to be Ronan McCarthy against Rob Warren. That's from the losers section. We'll be back with the action in just a few minutes.